Fanfiction. Some love it, some hate it, but I'm not going to assume that everyone knows what it is because, let's be honest, some of you good folks may have difficulty distinguishing between a derivative work and a fan comic. You know who you are. Anyway, on to a definition of fanfiction. In my opinion, you could describe fanfiction as... Well, damn, where's the definition?
Any kind of written creativity based on an identifiable segment of popular culture, such as a television show, and is not produced as professional writing.
Pretty broad for a definition, right? But I think that's kind of the point, and I'll explain what I mean by that later, but for now, it's time for a brief history. And by brief, I do mean brief.
While some may now associate fanfiction with the internet, fanfiction, as the definition suggests, is not limited to link postings, and its existence actually predates the internet by at least 100 years. A major distinction between fans writing in the late 1960s and into the 1970s and today's internet writers, however, is that some of those original fans wrote actual scripts for episodes of the television series they enjoyed. Star Trek producers even used a few of the unsolicited scripts they received, often not a significant number.
In other words, you could casually say that fanfiction is any type of fan creation with the intent to give other fans more of the worlds they've gotten invested into. Though not limited to a specific medium, fanfiction tends to fall into one of a few categories, with these categories being: what if?
One of my favorites. This tends to put well-known characters into unique and creative situations. I have some recommendations if you're interested. Seriously, hit me up. I'm not kidding.
Story retelling, or retelling for short.
If this is done right, it can really shake up the way you look at the source material. When I think of this, I think of a Bridget series.
Original character, or OC.
I don't know. Stuff like this can be a real grab bag, if you know what I mean.
Shipping, more specifically, shipping characters.
My absolute favorite, let the shipping begin.
Another important element when discussing fan fiction and what that means to the greater understanding of fiction in general is the concept of derivative works.
A derivative work is defined in the copyright statute as a work based upon one or more pre-existing works that may be recast, transformed, or adapted. Okay, I'm tired now. Good luck.
What makes derivative work so central to the concept of fanfiction is that derivative doesn't mean officiated. For example, most wouldn't consider the 50 Shades of Grey series to be canon to the Twilight series, but in the same breath, the Star Wars sequels are considered canon by Disney, the ones who made it, but not by most of the fans who've seen it. Unless you have a different opinion on that, in which case, good for you. The thing that makes fan fiction, and in turn derivative work, so difficult to create or work with, is that when you make it, you're not invincible to scrutiny from the original creators. Plagiarism, bad paraphrasing, and close adherence to a story's original events without change will all draw the ire of an original creator and their associates, which is something I covered in my demo video about Warner Brothers Entertainment versus RDR Books, but not yet with Paramount Pictures versus Antsar Productions. I can't really produce that. Can't really say that name.
Maybe you wouldn't be having trouble pronouncing things if you, I don't know, took the time to learn them first.
Since fanfiction can span across multiple mediums, it's important to know what counts as copyright and what copyright infringement actually constitutes. which is something that can be very difficult if you haven't no scope in the law, so here goes nothing. In plain terms, awareness is a creator's best friend. Copyright can be prickly, and depending on one's area, copyright may have different standards of limitations. For example, in the United States, you could probably get away with using the likeness or attributes of Superman, but to mention Clark Kent, Superman, or anything relating to the nice alien guy from Smallville will most likely get you struck by copyright. On the other hand, in a place like Japan, you could probably get away with using Goku from Dragon Ball Z, but any attempt to take the characters away from the IP would most likely get shut down without much issue. Also, depending on a number of factors, like the size of the IP or the popularity of the fan work, these rules may or may not apply. Ideally, if you're writing fanfiction, one would either want to create a new story that puts established characters in novel situations outside of the original release's focus, or create a new story with characters in unique situations that reference the original story's events or context. Got it? Got it. When it comes to fair use, it's built up like it's some sort of impervious defense against any sort of criticism or copyright or anything legal, but in reality, it's a strong but not indisputable defense. If you wanted to characterize fair use law as to what it actually represents, you can consider it the guidelines that copyright law operates under. Arguably, the greatest strength of fair use is seen with transformative media. Works that break the mold, and at least attempt to do something different from the original series, will find themselves better defended than those that pretty much stick to the source material letter by letter. Specifically, this means that a creator does not need to ask permission to try and create a fan work, and copyright holders should be aware of this fact. Bad fan works are still representative of a fan's interpretation, commentary, or vision of the original work. Fan productions do not need to be extremely high quality to be protected by this law. The greatest weakness of fair use is seen with mimic media. What makes this a weakness and not a feature is that under the right scrutiny, and with general statements, many creators can get bullied into a metaphorical corner by a larger creator who has just the baseline understanding of a fan work. In other words, depending on the one scrutinizing your works and how they scrutinize them, some fanfiction may be less defensible than others. In conclusion, fanfiction, fan media, is what you, yes you, make of it. And I think the main takeaways from this video in particular are the following. Awareness is key. Getting caught lacking on laws can stop a fan work before it even gets off the ground. Transformative media is ideal. If there's a way to innovate a story's progression or character dynamics, it should be pursued. Mimic media is indefensible. The law is harsh towards those who do not attempt to create something new. Companies and creators are twice, if not 3 times as harsh as the law is on blatant plagiarism, bad paraphrasing, or uninspired copying. Finally, and most importantly, fanfiction isn't and shouldn't only be thought of as a legal obstacle course. Even though there are some creators that detest fan works, creating these things should be a fun exercise that helps newcomers find a series, while longtime fans get more of what they love from the original work. Yep, and so that's the video. This is me in the New Media Center recording this after credit scene, I hope. But yeah, that's fan fiction for you. If you learn anything new, I don't know what you're going to use. I don't know what you're going to do with that information, but you know, more power to you. That's it.